Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts.
Archlector George.
And Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
Today we are covering Before They Are Hanged, the second book in the original trilogy. And for this episode, we'll be covering One Step at a Time, The Rest is Wasted Breath, and A Matter of Time. So, let's get started. Normally, our first segment is when we thank the audience for your all's support. And we do. We do appreciate it. But something needs to be addressed. I was alerted to a certain post about a certain character being named as like the best non-POV character. We don't need to get into another rant now. It's fine. And it would be okay. But apparently someone name dropped us. All right. And I will not dox you, whoever name dropped us, but then one of them, their names rhymes with Skanky Pie. Okay. And the other one is
What Jeffrey is trying to say is
the other one was
We thought we'd put
Valentine.
this to rest.
Yeah.
we do not think that we are the authority of anything. We are just fans who enjoy it and have opinions, like you. So if somebody ever claims that we have authority and that our opinions matter, it's because you gave it voice. So if you think that our voice has opinion, our voice has authority, then that's on you. That we did never claim to be so.
Yeah, but they said that we're not
At the same time.
And at the same time, though.
I thought it was implied that we weren't the
No.
authority because we never said that we were.
Look, everyone can have your opinions. This is your opinion. That's cool. The thing is it's wrong, but I mean, hey, enjoy it, own it, flaunt it.
Fuck wearing a block.
All right,
We're gonna have to cut this out now.
I'm done with wearing. I used to love him. Now we're on. I just can't even talk about him right now. All right, let's move on now.
And another thing is we're very sorry that we didn't manage to get this episode out in time for the usual release date on the Friday. But
Yeah, I should have led with that.
yeah, we should have led. But instead of immediately using fans, it just yeah. But some things got mixed up, and there was some miscommunications, and the time difference doesn't help, obviously. So thanks for your patience, and we'll probably have this one out Wednesday, which is probably when you listen to this, so you know that.
Yep. And then the other one will be released on Friday, regularly scheduled programming and all that.
So, on to the meme of the week. We have user on Lyria. I think that's how that's said on Reddit. And it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And then Rizanal, this is worthless. Because, of course, making sure you have sound ideals is more important than... So, thank you very much, on Lyria, for that. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Why did I think that was Sir Spaceman that posted that? Guys?
No clue. No clue, Jeffrey.
No
His
clue.
friend that recommended it.
Oh, he's the one that recommended it? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
On our
Well-
little private chat.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you for that, Georgie. We'll move on to our first chapter read-through, which is One Step at a Time. We pick up in this chapter. You guys are going to have to help me out on this. We pick up on this chapter with West, who is not having a grand old time because him, Ladislaw, Cathal, and Pike are following Three Trees' dozen through the woods as they track Bethod's army, and
Ladislaw will not stop fucking complaining.
he will not. He will not.
West is actually shouldering for some reason the blame of the army failing, the 10,000 men dying or getting captured and whatnot being broken. He's like, oh man, I was sit there to fix that and I failed, even though obviously it wasn't really his fault.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing he was going to do to change Ladislaw's mind.
Already he stooped to begging. He begged him, and he still went no. And then charged anyway.
We shall drive them back over the border.
When we get to this, and it's just Ladislaw being an absolute toddler, he's covered in snot and he throws himself on the floor. I can go no further. We must stop. Which I can imagine every 10 minutes, and Three Trees is just going, come on. We can keep going, come on.
Yeah,
And he's
she's just like, holy shit again.
You better not be asking me to stop again.
Yeah. And you can imagine it's just like the 10th time that day.
It's like whenever you go on a hike with your dad, but you're like 5 and you just don't want to go, but you have to go because he wants to go, and he's like, bloody hell, fucking let's go.
And then we have a little moment where Ladislaw is just blaming everybody. He's blaming Smund. He's blaming the soldiers. Like, why did they run? How dare they?
It's just as he kind of admits that he owes West his life, and he's like he turns around and says, "You've got the extra weight of my coat to carry," and then he's like, "You're right, I'm sorry," and then he just doesn't offer to give it back. It's just like, yeah, whatever. And then he's just like, fucking, I let that fool Smund talk me into rashness.
Yeah, I love it. He goes, yeah, I suppose I must shoulder a portion of the blame. And then he's like, Wes would have liked to serve him a portion of his boot. And then he goes, I should have listened to you, Colonel. I knew it all along. Caution is the best policy, eh? That's always been my motto.
Oh my god. Yeah, like he knew all along. He just got carried away. And then after that, he goes, why did they run? He starts blaming the men who fought and died for him. Because they ran away because they didn't want to die. He started getting upset with them. So,
and Wes is just trying all he can do to not just throttle this guy. Yeah. And the Three Trees gave him 3 minutes of rest, and they're like, all right, let's go. And they all start getting up. They walk, and then Dow gets in front of Wes real quick, and Dow is like, he thinks he's doing Wes a favor, or he's offering him a favor. He goes, do you want me to kill him?
Yeah.
I can kill him for you if you want. I could just get this motherfucker dead.
And I love this sort of like reaction that West has, and he's just like, if you touch one of them, I'll and Dow's just like, yeah. You'll what?
Dow, I love this part too because it fits Dow so well. Like, you think that he's just being like this evil bastard if you're looking at it on the surface or out of context. He's like, oh, I'll kill him for you. Look, oh, he just wants to kill people. He's just looking for permission. But really, he's like, okay, the West doesn't want to deal with this guy. You know, no one wants to deal with this guy. Let me do everyone a favor. This is what he does, and do the hard thing and kill somebody.
Yeah, which we've seen him do before.
Yep. Yeah,
and he would absolutely take that, wouldn't he? And he would just kill him, and that'd be it.
Yeah, wouldn't hesitate. He's like, all right, let's move on, fellas. Let's go. And then Dow's like all menacing. He's like, I might just try you. Let's see what happens. I was like, uh-oh. Is West about to get murder, death, killed by Dow? And then he catches up to Cathal because, Dow leaves. And then West is like, hey, how's it going? Is anybody bothering you? Anyone doing anything? And he's like, that Dow guy, he's throwing you some looks that aren't so cool.
Yeah. And she's like, no, I know how to deal with these people.
Right. And then she gives us a little exposition about what she had to go through in the foundry, the prison camp. She slept with the Inquisitor after 5 days of starving, so this way she could eat.
Yeah.
Right, which is terrible.
It's awful. This is our first little bit of Cathal's backstory, and I really like her. She's a good character.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, George. Everybody likes her. Okay.
Everybody likes Cathal.
She is.
I didn't know that.
She is a. The thing that I like about here too is it kind of, in a lot of these stories, if somebody's like, "Oh, I had to do this thing," it's like, "Oh, I bet you regret it," and Wes is like, "Oh, that's terrible. I bet you wish you didn't have to do that." And she's like, "No, I wish I did it sooner because I would have gotten fed sooner." And as terrible as that is, it's the truth of it. And I like that it doesn't skirt around that at all. I mean, that's just how it is. But Wes is like, so Wes thinks he's all hard and stuff because he is a peasant inside of a normal person inside of an army full of nobles, and he don't know shit. He's got an easy life.
Yeah. I like how he says that Ladislaw could learn something from her, like this sort of determination. That bit ends with it seemed that it was far too late for Ladisla to learn anything.
Yeah, because he's over here like daintily through the mud with a petulant frown on his face. It's like, Ladislaw.
Now there is one other thing, and that's the fact that Cathil tells West that Pike is not her father, that they looked out for each other, and that he saved her from the camp, and they knew each other in the camp and stuff, and that they just have a camaraderie with one another, which puts Pike in a completely different light as well, because you're not exactly sure what kind of person he is. He seems to have some toughness in him, not just because he looks tough, but the way he reacts when he's in, at that battle, and then walking through the woods. He doesn't really seem as bothered by walking and being in this tough terrain, and it's kind of interesting to see that Pike, out of purely the kindness of his heart, not only probably to a certain degree protected Catherine in the camp, but also saved her from being in the camp just because. He doesn't get anything out of it other than maybe some companionship.
Yeah,
it's a good man, Pike.
Good, I like that.
It's a good man. And speaking of Pike, there's a little bit of a break in the chapter, and they're all sitting around a non-fire, and they're eating old bread and cold stew, which is delicious. And West takes it upon himself to ask Pike, like, "Hey, you said you fought for the Union in Canta, right, back in that war?" And he's like, "Yep, I was a sergeant." And then, West asks some more probing questions, like, "Oh, what was your unit?" And he goes, "I was in the 1st Regiment of the King's Own Cavalry under Glockta." And then West is like, "Wait a minute, I was in that." He's like, "I don't remember you." And then he's like, "Yeah, I just looked different back then, but I remember you though, Lieutenant West, a good man to go with a problem." And now and West is like, "Well, not that
not anymore.
Not anymore."
And it's interesting that he doesn't ask him like what his real name might be, because he hasn't really got a clue whether his name's Pike or not. And he's if he's thinking if he's in his regiment, or he was in his regiment and he doesn't know his name.
I know exactly why, actually. And this may be going out on a limb, but West has shown to be talked to other people who are at his same quote unquote level, right? Or in that moment at least. It was that peasant, that farmer guy who was talking to the Lord Chamberlain. It was Sergeant Forrest as well. Each time he talks to these people, he doesn't actually care. I'm not saying he doesn't care for human beings overall. He obviously does, but like he even admits here that talking was better than just sitting there. So he's just trying to make conversation. But I don't think he really cares that much. To a certain degree, he's like, "Oh yeah, Pike, Cathil," but he asks directly about Cathil stuff because he likes her. But Pike, he's just trying to make conversation, and he's done this before with other people. He doesn't ask in-depth questions. Or doesn't try to actually make a real conversation. He just is like, "Oh yeah, you were in this war," or that farmer guy. He's like, "Oh man, tough times, huh? Tough times." Like he doesn't.
I don't know if I agree with that, because the farmer guy, that's just very embarrassing. West felt bad, but didn't know like how to help, but he wanted to help, but he couldn't help. With Pike, I know West, and I think even Glockta said it too. It's like, back then, if you're a commanding officer of some sort, you want to know all the men in your unit. You want to know them by name, because they're the guys that, they're going to have your back. So that's probably why, West is like, "I don't even remember you. What the fuck?" Because he probably knows every unit, every person in his unit. So the fact that Pike, is like, "I remember you though." I don't think. I think
maybe
West
he was embarrassed to ask.
Embarrassed to ask.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh wait, guys, we're overthinking this. I just realized, as far as he knows, his name is Pike.
Yeah.
So he's just like, "Oh, okay, your name is Pike."
Okay, yeah,
Pike.
fair enough.
Yeah, that's why. And Pike has a burned face. So.
Anyway,
we'll get to that. And then they're reminiscing a bit, and Pike's talking about his wife when Ladisla comes back, hitching up his trousers and wiping his hands on his coat. And he's like, "What were we speaking of?"
Yeah, he's wiping his hands, and he's like on the West's coat, and he's like, "That's better.
Yeah.
Ah.
And then he just goes like, "What are we speaking of?" And West like, "Oh well, Pike was talking about his wife." Before he even says anything, he's like, "Oh yes, of course, I am engaged to be married to the Princess Therese." And it just goes off on this fucking tangent for ages.
And then he goes, though I am beginning to suspect that she is less than entirely delighted with the match.
And Cathil, like the savage she is like, one can imagine why. I'm the heir to the throne.
And then they start arguing, and then Blacked Out comes out of nowhere. He's like, "You better shut his fucking mouth before I'll fucking shut it for him." And it's like, and Wes is like, he would like us to be quiet. And then Ladislav's like, "Goop, I gathered." Oh, and then before the chapter ends, we get a little funny moment where it's like they're all asleep, and Wes is in between Cathal and the Dogman.
And Dogman, yeah, he's literally between them.
Yeah, he's right between them, and he's just like, "Uh-oh, I feel Cathal's butt rubbing up against my junk."
she's like, put his head on his shoulder, and he's like, God, he's probably thinking about old grandma butts. You know what I mean? Trying to maintain, not waking anybody up, no freaking out.
Right, and then meanwhile, Dogman's like right behind him, probably spooning him, going.
Yeah, Dogman don't give a fuck. Dogman's probably fucking got his arm around him and everything, like, nice and snuggled up in there.
So this other image of them all like crammed under one blanket in the middle of the woods. It's just so funny.
It is funny, and it's great too because he's even like, he's like thinking about Kathy. He's like, this woman's right here, curl up against me, and then Dogman's like, fucking talking in his sleep.
I like one of the last sentences. There's like it was a pleasant warmth, but the effect was only slightly spoiled by the stink of sweat and wet earth, and the Dogman squeaking and muttering in his other ear. So he's
right in his ear.
He's right in his ear. And I imagine going like, he's a squeaky, so it's probably like.
They get like cartoon sleep noises.
Mm-hmm. Oh man. And then like he's only just thinking, he's like, all right, I just gotta get through this. I just need to get Ladislaw back to Burr, and everything will be okay. Everything will be okay. And that's where the chapter ends. What do you guys rate that chapter?
I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 9. I think it's a very average chapter. We get some West stuff. They're still just traveling. We get some background. We get some background on Pike. We get some background on Cathil. We get more of Ladislaw being funny, but he also is less funny in this simply because it's like even the readers, even listening to it, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Are you serious? You still don't get it?
Speaking of Ladislaw, you got to do the thing, Harrison. We didn't do it yet.
Do what thing?
You know what I'm talking about. Come on.
The thing.
The thing.
Captain Luther! You're my man! This is so fucking stupid. But I think it's a pretty average chapter because it's not really much happens. Really, we just get some background and some character moments and stuff. So
yeah, I agree. I give it a 4 out of 9 fingers.
I'm gonna go with 5 as well. I reckon.
Yeah, not much happened. Just some traveling. Just like the comedy was great, But other than that, it was whatever.
And it's nice to see West standing up to Ladislaw.
Yeah, he snapped. He was like, "Motherfucker!"
Yeah.
Ladislaw better chill out. West got a temper.
Could say he's
what are you talking about?
furious.
Yeah, he's pretty furious. Oh, all right. Let's move on to our character spot. No, we should not do character spot, right? Because
Do it.
Yeah, we can do the cards.
which one is? But
we could probably just do it at the end of this chapter. Just move straight on and do it at the end of this chapter.
The next chapter is the rest is wasted breath. Is that the one with the
Zacharias?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's do the community interaction segment then.
Okay.
All right. Now we'll move on to our community interaction segment.
Ba-la-la-la-la.
What? Harrison, did you? Yo, Harrison, did you just have a stroke?
It's a transition sound.
What?
That's not a fucking transition sound.
Ding ding ding.
What are they teaching you?
He's trying to do the Batman thing, isn't he?
Batman.
We can just cut that all out.
All right, I'll cut it out. Let's try again, Harrison. All right. Now we'll move on to a community interaction. And all right. Now we'll move on to a community interaction segment. Harrison?
Yeah, so I actually accidentally posted this on my own personal Reddit, not the account, but I think people got the idea. Everyone is who I am, I guess. So they I did the
You're
favorite
a celebrity.
Whoa, favorite spooky scene in the First Law, which there's quite a few different ones. I just kind of posted some of the ones that I thought of. That being like Glockus Dreams. I labeled it Lamb's Scare House, but we all know what that is. It's whatever. It's in Red Country when he's like, Joubert's like, God? And fucking Lamb's like, there is no God. Just me. You're like, holy shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Ptolemy scene, which is whenever she reveals herself. And that is always disturbing to me. The House of the Maker in its entirety is always a little disturbing. And Rika's Long Eye Fever Trip, because there's some wacky stuff in there that kind of gives you the chills whenever especially if you're listening to it.
Oh yeah.
So we got 155 votes. Thank you for everybody who participated. Lamb Scarehouse won, which I think rightfully so. I mean, it's fucking. It really is scary. Like, you can put yourself in those guys' shoes, so especially since you go into their POV, and they just get massacred by one old man hiding in a house using terror. Like, he's just chopping off limbs and hanging them up, waiting for next people to come in. Like, talk about psychological warfare.
Well, I noticed on the post, I saw somebody comment, a couple people commented, and I agree with the X-Serpax that the Made a Monster in Sharp Ends. That is some spooky.
Yeah.
That's spooky.
Yeah, I would have put it on there, but I wanted to make sure people could. I hate it whenever I go to post for these polls, and then somebody's like, why didn't you add this thing? So I just put the other, because it was going to be open to interpretation anyways, so.
I love this comment where he said, this is about the House of the Maker one. When they come out onto the balcony, and I was just like, whoa, we're so high up, and Glockton looks at him and it's like, there weren't any steps. And that just freaks me out every single time I read it. Like, it gives me proper shivers.
Yeah, it really is disturbing, because like there's no explanation. It's just left in the open. And you stack that on top of all the weird shit in the House of the Maker. Like, it's so alien. And it really does. Like, can you imagine trying to walk through the House of the Maker by yourself, alone?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I'd hate that. So, House of the Maker won second place. So, and then Ricky's Fever Trip Dream, and then Ptolemy, and then Gloctus Dreams, which I always think Gloctus Dreams are like the first taste of some terror, some creepy shit. And I always like it. It's subtle, and it's not as blatant at first, and there's not too many of them, but when they're there, I always like. Can you imagine having a dream like that, and then to find out that it was actually something legitimate?
Oh god,
yeah. Yeah. I think that everybody who came in here and commented, they mentioned, like you guys said, the
Made a Monster.
The Made a Monster, and then somebody else said the stuff in Alcus is pretty creepy. I thought about putting Alcus up there as well. All the Alcus stuff has a certain amount of terror once the Shanka get involved. So I like that as well. All the bodies that don't decay. A whole city full of them, and like a massive city too, like Rome in its heyday, like 1 million people.
Yeah, and then when they figure out, like when Pharaoh says to Logan, like they've been eating the bodies, Shanka has been eating these people that have been dead for like thousands of years.
It's so yeah.
It's so weird.
That takes a whole nother spin on the term aged meat.
But it's we'll get there here soon in the story, anyways, and it's incorporated excellently in that. But, anyways,
and here we start off with Pharaoh's point of view. Who wants to take this one?
Oh, Pharaoh is just she's just always like not complaining, but she's always so wary of everything, isn't she? She's like, oh, I hated it when it was like just a flat plain with long grass, and now it's like not a flat plain with long grass, and I hate it even more.
Yeah, I don't think there's a limit on how much she hates things. Like it always is worse than the last thing.
Yeah.
And basically, they're kind of getting close to Alcus, so everything is slowly disappearing because there is no life.
Yes, and we haven't really had the proper backstory on this yet, but we know that there is. But it's basically like, because we see it just from the descriptions, like the grass is all dead. Logan says it's the first bird we've seen in 2 days, which out in the countryside is a fucking rare thing. Birds all over them.
And then she's all like, as grumpy as she is, she's like, the birds have more sense than us. What are we doing here? And fucking Logan is kind of done with her bullshit a little bit here because he's just like tired of her always being negative and always being so hard all the time.
Yeah.
And he's just talking. He's like, got nowhere better to be. And Pharaoh's like, speak for yourself. And and Logan's like, are you serious? After all this time, after all this talking to you and being kind, you fucking just gonna randomly be sassy for no reason? And he's just like, what? You got a crowd of friends back in the Badlands all asking after you? Where did Pharaoh get to? The laugh's all dried up since she went away.
Yeah.
Just roast the shit out of her.
And I love how it says, and then he snorted as if he had said something funny.
Yeah.
Pharaoh's just like, no, fuck you.
And she says, we can't all be as loved as you think. She gave a snort of her own, and then I'm sure they'll have a feast ready for you when you get back to the north. And then he's just like, oh, there'll be a feast, all right, just as soon as they've hung me. Yeah. And they're just being like sassy to each other. Like, yeah, he's just done with it.
Back and forth.
And Pharaoh's just like, oh, fuck him. Like, he's just like everybody else. Screw him.
Yeah.
And
this could be them flirting. This is how I would flirt.
I would say that this is about as close as they can get.
Yeah. And I do like this sort of this like in a monologue she has about Logan as well. Like, she didn't trust him, she didn't do this, and then she was like, but she hasn't yet hear him say he would do a thing and then not do it. Which is a good sign of like, a good, solid, dependable person. So she has got a good sense of character there, which is interesting.
Yeah, she's afraid to trust anybody because of her past, but she is also makes the allowance that, he's definitely better than anybody else there. Kind of like what she said before. So a little softening up a little bit, but and then
they have this little philosophical back and forth about what you should expect out of life. It's like, you expect too much out of life, Pink. Like, well, here was me thinking you expect too little. And then he's like, expect nothing and you won't be disappointed. Well, if you expect nothing, you'll get nothing. And they're just going back and forth, back and forth.
It's just two different. Well, like I've pointed out before, Logan and Pharaoh have they're two sides of the same coin, and how they go about life and where they end up going. And and this is kind of highlighted here, and I really like that, especially since right after, he kind of cuts off the conversation because she's being sassy, and then she, of her own volition, after actually thinking about it, like, maybe I'm being a bitch, she's like, you got no one then? Like, this is like one of the few times that she actually talks to him on her own and asks like a question about him.
That's true, yeah.
And not only does, and he says no one but enemies, she continues to be like, why are you fighting them? Like, she's actually being genuinely curious about him, which is just an interesting change that we've seen in her disposition towards even him.
Yeah, because the only other time we've really heard her ask questions is when she's trying to annoy Baez. and it's pretty clear that she's not trying to annoy Logan here. She actually, yeah, like you say, is genuinely curious about him.
And she kind of walks back a little bit after she's sitting there. Then is like, well, she's thinking about knowing, like, oh, trust and comradeship, good humor, and they're almost unknown to her at this point. And she's like, and who likes the unknown, anyways? She's trying to like not let her guard down.
Yeah, and she's trying to justify it to herself, like being such a hard bitch all the time. I love this bit though when she scowls, of course, scowls at Giselle and just how fucking grins back at her. And like, he seemed different. She didn't like it.
The last time she had changed his dressings, he had thanked her. He's like, I don't like that. I don't like thanks.
Yeah, no. It annoyed her that there was something that she did that would justify thanking.
Well, Farrah as well, and we'll see this later on as well. Farrah has such a hard time changing, and like self-reflecting, that whenever somebody else does it, she thinks that there's genuinely something wrong. Like it's not good, because she has a hard time doing the same things to herself. So whenever she sees Giselle trying to be more appreciative and be a better person, she's not disturbed just because she's being bitter. She's having a hard time comprehending becoming a better person, because she's not self-reflective really.
That is.
And then we move on to they basically stumble across a battlefield. There's lots of these, isn't there, in these books, where people just stumble onto a battlefield and there's just millions of dead bodies everywhere.
Well, this one, they're on a certain particular ancient road, and then the other one that they step onto the battlefield, they're also right off the road. So
that makes sense. Fair enough. But it said here we get introduced to Harrison.
Yes.
Go on. We know this is your pick because this is all this fucking exposition.
Yeah, there's a lot here. So they're looking around, and this is kind of whenever they're talking about how these bodies are like decaying way slower than they should, like hardly decaying at all. And they're talking about how there's the birds are not eating, then the bodies are just there. And then they hear some guy go, "Not really, friend," about how they're not eating and how weird it is. And they look up and they see some kind of weird motherfucker. Some guy with like bird shit on his head. He's walking with a staff. He's got all these birds sitting on him. He's like Radagast from Lord of the Rings, like the Hobbit trilogy.
He's a tall Radagast, though, right?
Yeah. And he's walking up, and Pharaoh's about to just shoot the guy.
Yeah, and Baez is like, no,
don't do that. Don't do that. And this guy, he kind of does the Yulway thing. He's all like, "You see this? 100-mile column, 100 miles to Alcus."
Yeah, he's so dramatic. Like over dramatic.
You stand on the very borders of the dead land. No animals come here, not that are made to come. And then Baez is like, "How now, brother?" And Pharaoh's like, "Fucking shit, another Magus? Are you serious?"
Yeah.
We get, and this is something that Yulway is very he's very friendly with Baez, and this guy immediately comes out the gate, and it's very clear that he's being sarcastic. He's like, "The great Baez, first of the Magi. Can it be that those blessed feet should touch this bloody ground?"
Yeah.
And Baez is trying to just be like, "Oh, hey there, bro. You look all right." And
this is Zacharias. Like, Baez introduces us by saying his name.
Yeah. He says Zacharias, and he looks back and he's like, "Oh no, I don't. I look tired and old and shit. Like, no, I'm." He's like, I don't look good at all. And
I haven't taken a bath in 2 weeks. These birds keep shitting my hair.
What's interesting here, in a very subtle way, is that Baez looks at the ground and is like, "Is this your work?" Which is one.
It's quite telling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite telling that even Zacharias here, who we know is a little bit crazy, he is quite formidable when he wants to be. And Baez truly believes, like, oh, maybe he killed all these guys, like 1,000 people, which is terrifying. then he
I mean,
kind of
if it
goes on
doesn't just if his powers don't just extend to birds, because he does say the birds in the air, the fish of the water, and the beasts of the earth. So if he can control all of that, that is pretty fucking scary. Like,
yeah.
imagine being an
Yeah.
army and then you just get stampeded by a herd of wildebeest or something.
Yeah, and no doubt, he probably got some other tricks up his sleeve too, seeing as the Magi have multiple specialties that they go into. But he basically says, it's from his charge, young Galtus, and he's basically like talking about how great he is and how he's going to be the new emperor and everything, and he beat his brother Ascario and then showed him mercy because he's just that good of a man.
And like how he's like, not my advice.
Yeah, and Baez agrees with him. He's like, mercy only goes so far. And so he's just talking about how the Third Legion, the very standard that Salicus himself rode into battle under, it was stolen by Galtus, and that they had fought them here because they wouldn't go any further into Alcus, the region close to it, and that he took them all out and stuff. And they kind of talk back and forth and talking about how there's this kind of old man talk about the glories of the past and what can be what can be gotten again. And Baez is kind of the opinion that the past is dead and that we shouldn't try to revive it. And Zacharias is not convinced of that. He's thinking like, oh no, we can kind of bring it back to a certain degree. Look, this guy is pretty good, and you kind of get the sense that Zacharias is definitely clinging on to this old empire idea, to the emperor, to the way Juvens ran things. And Baez is absolutely done with that.
Absolutely. I mean, we know that Zacharias, he talks a good game here. He talks about Galtus and how good he is and this and that. But how many people have there been like this through the past where he's gone, this is going to be the one, this is going to be the guy that reunites the old empire and all this, and then it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, if we think about it too, it's been about, we're probably close to about 1,000 years since the old empire started declining. And Zacharias, for this whole time, is more than likely this whole time, has been just trying to rebuild it. And not only that, we know from other people talking about it that the old empire has been a shithole has been declining for 1,000 years. It's not been going up at all. So Zacharias has been failing for 1,000 years, and he's still trying, which, the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
That's not the real definition of insanity.
No, it's not, but
No,
don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
No, I will always let facts get in the way of a good story. I'm a pedantic asshole. Don't forget that.
But despite Baez talking about how things can't go back and blah blah blah, he starts talking about Khalul, and he's like, hey, Khalul's moving to the south, and he starts talking the way he does with Yoe, and he's like, oh yeah, he starts talking like a magi, like, oh, Khalul moves in the south, the entire south moves with him, and you're like, that's a little odd for Baez. Normally he's a bit more practical. And he's talking about how there's only ruins here, or Zacharias says that, and Baez is like, no, there's power in the past. And Zacharias laughs at him and is like, power? You never change. And then he looks at the group, and he was like looking around, and he looks at Malicus and is like, oh, you're a talker. Have you changed at all? And Quai just says, well enough. And he's like, oh, maybe he did change. He doesn't talk at all.
It's interesting that we know that Malicus was kind of like turfed off on him, wasn't he? It was just like, no, you go and study under Baez now, and you can get your stuff. God knows how long ago that was.
Yeah, no kidding. Zacharias like, fuck off, dude.
Yeah, you talk too much. The crazy bird guy thinks you talk too much.
And it's kind of cool here too, because Zacharias, without us knowing exactly what it is they're looking for, what Baez is going for, Zacharias knows exactly what Baez is looking for, and it basically tells him, like, hey, you need someone who with the blood and somebody with the spirits, and he points towards Pharaoh and look, and he's like, he speaks to the spirits, and it has devil blood, and Zacharias is like, no shit, okay, oh shit, okay, and then Baez asks him for help. He says, we can work together, the three of us, we can do it together, and Zacharias is not down for it. He is like, we will you help me? If only you had offered your help long ago after the Maker fell when I begged you for it. Then we might have torn up Kalu's madness before you put its roots down. And he doesn't think that the three of them will be enough. And he kind of name drops some people. He's like, will you lure call Neil from her books? Or will you find Leru under whatever stone she's crawled beneath the wide circle of the world? Will you bring Carnault back from across the wide ocean? Or Anselmi and Broken Tooth back from the land of the dead? We get them all these magi and where they're at. And seeing as Baez asking for, says, like the three of them, it appears that the only active magi are, at this moment in time, Zacharias, Baez, Yolway, and Kalul. Out of the original 12, those ones are the only ones that are actually doing anything.
And I like that. This is probably the first time we get some really good, solid information about the Magi. I mean, we get like the mural in Box's torture basement, and that's just a perspective. Like he just sees, there's 12 people and blah blah blah, whatever. But it's interesting to actually get this background on the Magi.
Yeah, it's cool to think about too how Zacharias knows Baez so well that he's basically, each time Baez says something, Zacharias is not fooled at all. He reads right through him, despite them not seeing each other often clearly. They seem to know each other very well, and it's the first time that when Baez is talking to somebody, that some people are like, other than the Archlector, they're like, "Fuck you, Baez," basically.
Yeah.
And Baez kind of takes the high road, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't break the second law. I'm not the one at fault." Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And that's whenever.
And he's not wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
For what we know about Kalul and the Gurkish, like that is objectively worse. Like
that's true. Yeah, eating people.
Yeah.
But it is also interesting here because Zacharias roasts him, kind of roast Baez here, and he was like, "Oh, I dare say he never intended," like talking about the Maker and stuff, and how Baez was defiant towards Juven and then went to the Maker. And then he says, "I dare say the Maker never intended you to, never intended to share his daughter with you, eh, Baez? The Maker's daughter, Ptolemy? Is there room in your memory for her?" Just fucking roast the shit out of him.
Baez is a daughter fucker. Like, how dare you?
Yeah. And then that's whenever Baez
took you under his roof. He provided food, shelter, and knowledge. And you out here smashing his daughter?
Baez, you dirty dog.
And Zacharias makes good points all through this conversation. And he even says, "Do you think Au spoke the first law on a whim? Do you think Juven's put this thing at the edge of the world because it was safe? It is evil."
And Baez is like, "Ha, evil." Which is never something that the hero in a story says, is it? Evil's just a word for children. Oh shit.
And they kind of wrap up here. She's like talking about, like, Zacharias tries to tell Pharaoh, like, "Hey, you better be careful who you're traveling with here." And Pharaoh's like, "Oh, fuck you. One old man is no better than another." That's a good point.
Yeah, I'll just stick with the old man that I've got. That's fine.
And whenever they're about to leave, Baez is like, listen, you'll soon hear that Kalul has fallen. Just listen to the birds of the air and the fish of the sea. He kind of repeats what he said to him, or what Zacharias said to him, which is interesting again because it makes you wonder. Damn, Zacharias probably knows everything that's going on. If he can really listen like that.
Yeah, that probably what's driven him mad.
Yeah,
just all of that sensory information.
It seems like with his abilities, Zacharias is really good at knowing shit.
But I love the way this chapter ends when he's like, "The mistakes of the past are not so easily buried. I honestly hope that you fail." And Baez just turns around and he's like, "Mate, none of your hopes never come to anything." I was like, ooh.
Yeah, he says, "Look around you, old friend."
Yeah.
And I just love this old man fucking grilling session on each other. It's awesome. We get lore
Big burn, Baez.
Yeah. And for that reason,
just says that.
What was that?
You broke up, George.
Oh no.
George.
Just my walks over.
George.
Hello.
Oh,
I'm not
George
cutting up.
said.
All right, did that all come through there?
No.
No.
All right, okay. I was just saying, like, he just says that at the end, and then just like drops the mic and walks off. But yeah,
I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 9.
Ooh.
Because I think the exposition here is really well done. We get not only exposition about the other Magi, about exposition about the Empire, we exposition about Baez himself, about their philosophies and how they think about each other. Somebody else basically looking at Baez, somebody who knows Baez and has some negative things to say. But Baez also has some good points. Even knowing what we know, Baez still has good points here. And it's just a super interesting conversation that they have. And it's really out of the blue, and it feels really nice to have that exposition for some context for some of these larger events. And, it also makes you kind of sad, too, because you know that these people obviously cared about each other at one point. They fought in a war together. They obviously have trauma from that. They fought Canadius together. And it's just... it's a little sad and a very interesting conversation. I think it's really well written, this whole conversation. There's a lot of subtle things going on, so 8 out of 9 for me.
I'll give it a 7 out of 9. I like all the exposition. I like the interaction. Like Zacharias, he comes in with, it's quite the first impression. And obviously they don't travel like a lot. They kind of just stay in one spot just by talking to Zacharias. But he makes it like very entertaining. Just by how Pharaoh perceives him, how Logan's all bewildered when he's like, "Oh yeah, I can talk to spirits," and like Baez being annoyed by somebody, but not being able, he's not doing the whole "I'm gonna threaten to explode you into smithereens." It's just, Zacharias is another Magus, and he's gonna be like, "Man, fuck you, Baez, you bald bitch," and then he's like, "Fuck you, Zacharias, you crazy motherfucker." It's like, so that's pretty fun. I give it a 7 out of 9.
I think I'd give that one a high score as well. I reckon a 7, just because I fucking love Zacharias. I think he's a brilliant character, even though he is just Radagast. He is just Radagast. He's a serious grimdark Radagast, and I love him.
Which perfectly transition us into the character spot, playing off of what George said about Zacharias.
As it is Zacharias.
Yeah, it's Zacharias.
The one and only time he turns up in this trilogy, so we've got to cover him here.
Yeah, he's like he sticks with you, right? Like it's interesting to think about. Zacharias has been trying to. You get it. I mean, what else does he know? I mean, he's been working. He's trying to get the old empire to try to coalesce. He's trying to, bring back the old thing, bring back the old ways and everything.
The good old days.
The good old days.
Yeah.
I can't really blame him. And the fact that we get so much character in this one little conversation is incredible. He's somebody who is very, he seems to be pretty damn smart, and very observant, and knows how to speak, but he is stuck in the past, like many old men are. And Yulway's a little stuck in the past as well, and Zacharias here is, it's kind of sad to see him, like, as you can tell, like he's degraded from what he used to be, perhaps. But he's still there. There's still a bit of fire left in there, He still has that motivation. Maybe the only thing keeping him going. He hasn't crawled into a rock. He hasn't delved himself into books. He didn't die in combat. He didn't become an eater. He's not like Baez, without spoiling anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's probably he's the most he's the most like a wizard out of a fantasy novel. Out of all of the Magi. He's like the most traditional sort of wizard guy.
I would say Yulway.
Yeah.
Because Yulway's very like wise and he's all
Why?
Oh, Pharaoh, you crazy bitch.
I'm thinking more as well about the aesthetic of him as well. Like he's got the cloak and he's got the bird shit and shit like that, and he's just a bit mad.
Man, I don't know what wizards you be talking to, but good Lord. All right, whatever.
Well, the thing is, too, is that I don't want to spoil too much, but Yulway's view on things is maybe not exactly clear, whereas Zacharias is very clear. He may be stuck in the past, and he may be fighting for a lost cause, but he is definitely, not, like I said, he's not out of it yet. And compared to the other magi, I would say he perhaps is the best of them. Perhaps.
Maybe.
He's
But
flawed.
We'll have to come back to this when we do a character spot for him in Red Country.
Yes.
But yeah, for now we'll have to shelve Zacharias goodbye.
Mm-hmm. Well,
anything else to say about him, Jeffrey?
Well, no. I was a fan as soon as he came on that page. I was like, oh, okay, we got this a crazy one, boys. Hop in. No.
And I just have to say as well, I do like how what you were saying earlier, Harrison, about him trying to kind of fight for the past and keep the past how it is. That ties in really well with Pharaoh's thoughts about the unknown and who likes the unknown.
Oh yeah, there's a bit of that.
Interesting. I like that.
Because Zacharias would rather literally fight for 1,000 years, go through all of these people. God knows how many people he's seen come and go that he's cared about, and he'd.
Yeah, you're right. That is a really good parallel. He is like Pharaoh.
Hold on, George's connection's acting up again.
Is it?
Yeah, it's like it sent it whatever you said. It sent it like 20 seconds later. It's like big delay.
Shit.
It's okay.
Just go ahead and repeat the last part, George.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't remember what it was now.
About Pharaoh.
That they're similar.
Oh, that's it. You heard that though. You answered me.
Okay, that was it.
Yeah, that was fine.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
That's all right. That's okay.
All right.
It's all good, man.
I was just so confused. I was like, how is there a delay? I've just been talking to you. I'm confused.
Anyways, yes, Zacharias is very interesting, and you're right. He does have a connection with Pharaoh in a way that is very interesting. That's a good point, George. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. That's what I'm here for.
Now, Jeffrey.
Sorry, just finishing up that text. All right. Now we'll be moving on to our third chapter read through, which is A Matter of Time. It's a matter
and we
of time.
start off with another one of Archlector's fucking. Oh, it's not. It's one of Glock's letters too.
It's Glock's letters.
But he's like, yeah, it's fine. We've been holding the Gersh back for 6 weeks. They've kind of managed to get through the channel. The scaling part is coming up every night. Things aren't looking good, but we will fight on. Yeah. That's a good bit of fucking optimism there, isn't it?
I serve and obey.
Yeah.
It's no big deal, Archlector. I got this. It's just, everyone's dying. It's cool, though. It's cool. We got it.
You're going to be dead any day now.
No problem. I'm the man for this job. You got me out here in the city, halfway across the world, not even connected to our main continent, and I'm crippled, and you want me to just hold it for what reason? Oh, but yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah. Glockter is that hungry for something to do.
Yeah,
he could have just quit. He could have just quit the Inquisition. Just been like, nah, it's not for me anymore.
Yeah, right. I always thought about that. Like, could he just quit if he really wanted to?
No, probably not. Now that you think about it, I don't think Archlector Salt is the kind of guy that you handed your notice to.
Yeah, I don't think you could, depending on what you're doing. If you're just a low level Inquisitor, as a low level Inquisitor, you probably could resign and do something else. But if you're if you're a superior, no, no way, bro.
Excuse me.
You're right, Jeff.
Unless you're like the superior of Keln or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Who gives a fuck about Keln?
Yeah, nothing ever happens in Keln,
Oh shit. Continue, George. I'm sorry.
That's all right. And then we cut to Glockter standing on the walls again, watching the fucking chaos of the battlefields. And this is just horrible, isn't it? Like these descriptions. We've had a lot of this in the last couple of chapters, but it's some pretty nasty shits going on.
Mm.
And he gets in an argument with General Visbrook, and Visbrook's like, is this gonna get any better? Are we getting any reinforcements? Like, and he starts to takes him aside a little bit, and he's just like, we could get out of here while we still can. And Glockter's like, no, not a good idea. Like, what happens when we get back? What happens when we get back to Andrew? What do you think is gonna happen when the Archlector fans finds out that we've actually abandoned Togoska?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? That the fact that, Visbrook is not actually being unreasonable. Glockta is borderline unreasonable. It's like, pick your poison. Are we going to get fucking murdered by the Gurkish or murdered by the Archlector? And Glockta's just like, we're going to stay here? And I genuinely don't think that Visbrook right here is thinking of himself. Not really. I mean, I
think he's thinking of his men.
Yeah, he's thinking of his men. He's Visbrook through the siege, and we'll make him a character spot next episode. But Visbrook through the siege has definitely become a much harder man and a much more respectable man. Even if he's still under Glockta, he's definitely he went from being an armchair general to being my men. I want to save as many Union lives as possible, and that's
and he's in a hard position as well. I love this sort of dialogue where he's like, what should I tell my men? My men are close to mutiny. The mercenaries are considerably less dependable. Or should I tell them that we're just not allowed to retreat? And he's like, just tell them that there are reinforcements coming. No, I've been telling them that for weeks. Well, then a couple more days shouldn't make a difference. I would be frustrated as well,
Yeah, it's easy. It's the chain of command.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, George. My bad.
He goes, it's like, when might the reinforcements be arriving? And he's like, any day.
It's easy. Like, there's just a chain of command. The fact that it's easy for Glockta just to say, it's easy. Don't worry about it. And he has to just answer to one person, basically. Not answer, but he has to just tell one person. Hey, Visbrook, go tell the men that we got reinforcements on the way. Visbrook has to tell, like, thousands of people. We're there are people on the way. I know I told you that 3 weeks ago, but promise.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. The chain of command does make it easier for Glockta. But then Glockta probably wouldn't bulk. Would he? He'd probably just be like, "Look, guys, look at me. I'm crippled. None of your problems matter."
Poor me. Fuck you guys.
Yeah.
And then he basically says that they're going to, he kind of talks to him for a bit, and there's some pleading that Visbrook does. Glockta is basically like, next step is to pull back to the upper city, prepare some traps for our invaders, and we'll hold up their necks. And then Visbrook's like, bro, that's where the docks are. We can't leave at that point. And the Glockta's like, it is what it is, bro.
Yeah, that's it. See ya.
Then he kind of transitions here to where oh yes, that's right, I forgot, my bad, guys, is that he is going down into the dungeons and to where Shickle is at. I forgot that this is we're already here. Yeah. And he's looking at Vitari and Severod and Frost, and I just love this line, devils in hell. That line is so good. I don't know why. It slaps.
Joe uses it for lots of different things. It slaps. You fucking Zoomer.
You damn straight I am.
You youngin'.
At least we have one
moron.
One variation of diversity, all right? At least we have one thing of diversity other than our fucking ethnicity.
What?
What?
What are you talking about? We're three crackers. What are you talking about?
That's what I mean. We have diversity in age, and at least George is from the UK. I'm just trying to get our wins where we can get them. I'm trying to get our wins where we can get them. Okay.
It's diversity because we're all 5 years apart.
That's diversity. Oh shit. Oh, by the way, you should announce George. It was your birthday last week.
Yeah, it was, which is part of the reason why this episode's a little bit late. So
Yeah, that's
happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday!
How many years of our Lord have you spent on this planet?
All 27 of them.
27. Oh, I'm way more. I'm older than 5. I'm more than 5 years older than you.
Right?
Jeffrey, you get older by the day.
I'm gonna be 34 in March.
Oh my god, you're an old fucker.
I'm an. Excuse you, sir.
Respect your elders.
Back in my day. Sorry to interrupt you, Harrison. Go ahead with your diversity education.
I was just saying, we got to take our diversity wins when we can get them. Okay, we may not have the race, but at least we have the culture and the age. You know.
Sure.
Let's just move on. All right.
Anyway,
We'll get back to the torture.
Can we get back to the torture thing, please? Can we get back to where they torture a 14-year-old girl? Thank you.
So there's a 14-year-old girl who is definitely not 14, and they are torturing the shit out of her. They've tried everything. They fucking tried drowning the bitch. They tried burning the bitch. They tried fucking chopping off her limbs, fucking cutting her. Nothing works. She's totally fine. No emotion whatsoever. Just chilling. And Vitari is like, we can't kill her. We can't do anything. She's unbreakable. And but they do say that she's not healing anymore. She's just taking it, which is interesting. Seeing as she's been in here for about 6 weeks or so. Yep.
Yeah.
Perhaps because she has not eaten. I would say that's probably more than likely why. But I love how after Galacta, for the first time in this series, after denying Yolwei, denying Baez, all that shit, he goes, we must keep an open mind about Schickel. And then Schickel starts speaking, and her voice sounds like like she's possessed by a demon, basically.
Yeah, I did find this choice of voice in the narration very a bit strange.
What does
she
Pacey
keeps
sound
the Irish
like?
accent.
What does Pacey sound like in the book, George?
I couldn't even, to be honest, I couldn't even begin to fucking try that one. It's like, I do not, but I feel plentiful remorse. Is that good? I don't know.
It's pretty good, yeah. Anyways, so they have this conversation. We get more exposition, which is yay. They talk about how her conversation goes in a way that Kalu is like her father, and like that's who is her spiritual father.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, why haven't you talked until now? And she's like, because I wanted to show you that I talked in my own time, that I talk when I want to. And so Glock's like, okay, well, so you're an eater then? And she's like, we have other names for ourselves. And she talks about how she ate her mother first, and that's when probably when she became an eater, or the process definitely started off there. And she hates herself. She's just disgusted by herself, but whatever. That she's definitely over it by now. And Glock asks, "Why do you eat?" And she basically says that she eats because that's the way of things. And that, they're the prophet's children, Kalul's children, and that Juvens was betrayed, and Kalul swore vengeance. But he stood alone against many, so he made a great sacrifice, broke the second law, and the righteous joined with him, more and more with the passing years. Some joined willingly, some not. It's kind of gives you the vibe, kind of lining up with what Baez was saying previously, in the fact that after he broke the second law, Kalul, he brought other people in and created a whole fucking religion out of it. Yeah. Which is, in fact, quite genius. Mm-hmm. It's a really good way of doing things. Then Glock's like, you feel no pain? She's like, nope, just remorse. They kind of, he asks if she can stop eating. And she says, no, not ever. And they can never stop eating. It's like imagine if you're addicted to heroin, but you literally cannot stop taking heroin. There is no breaking out of the addiction. You can't. But you still have that addicted feeling.
That is essentially what this is, isn't it? There's a good allegory there to, like you say, to addiction, and what they get from it is probably not worth the cost.
No, it's not.
Almost definitely. But I love this sort of tirade she goes on about Kalul, and he's like, holiest of all, whose feet touch the earth, humbler of the proud, righter of the wrongs. And Glox is just there, and I bet he fucking shits gold as well. Come on.
So, most of the conversation, they just talk about how they're just peons, basically. Trickle's like, hey, you have a master too, like, you don't know everything that's going on. There's been a secret war going on. She's basically talking about this war that Kalul's been waging in the shadows. And he doesn't know the whole story. She doesn't know the whole story. And what does it matter? They're just part of it. She's just talking because she wants to talk. And, none of it really matters. And whatever, And Glocker's like, well, what happens next? And she doesn't answer. So at that point, Glocker's like, answer him! Which is funny. And then they go to burn her again and nothing happens. And then Glocker's like, okay, she's done talking. So Vitari's like, what do we do with it? And I love the way Pacey delivers this line, because it's like, man, this thing's unkillable. What are we gonna do? And Glocta has not even put hardly any thought into it, and he's just like, burn it.
Yeah. Throw it in a big fire and hope it fucking.
Yeah. And I like how Glocta doesn't even acknowledge that it's a person. He just says burn it. He doesn't say burn her, it. Which is a subtle way of him accepting the fact that things are not that simple. He did learn something from this conversation.
Mm-hmm. I think this is fantastic. I love Shickle's sort of this scene, and I love how she just shuts up. She's just like, "That's it. I'm not telling you anymore. There's nothing that you can do." And this is the first time this has happened to Glocta. Like, he's hit a brick wall, and this isn't going to go anywhere.
He doesn't have any leverage over her. Pain is what he uses as leverage with people, and there's none of that. And it's also what he kind of realizes too. You can tell by the way he's thinking about things. He's got an open mind, and subtly. And I there's such a subtle way of Glocta changing over this trilogy. I notice it more and more each time. But this is where he starts to really grasp and take into account that he may be in way over his head.
I think he knew that a long time ago.
Well, yes, but he still was like, that magic, not real. Fuck it. Even with your way,
Even after he goes to the house of the maker and sees all that mad shit, he's still just like, no, it's not real.
No, this can't be real. This is just a bad dream. Mm-mm.
It's just the progression. I love to see that progression.
Yeah.
And then we continue on. He goes to the lower city, right?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yeah, he goes down to the lower city and he meets up with Koska. And Koska's just fucking happy-go-lucky as always. It's nothing like an evening stroll after a skirmish.
Glocta's all like, how long do you think we can hold out? And he's like, another week? He's like, reasonable. And he's like, 2 weeks? And Koska clicks his tongue. Less good.
Yeah. And then he goes, and then Glocta's like, which would make a month a hopeless cause. And then he's like, hopeless would be the word.
Yeah. I love this rant that Koska goes on about is it honor? Yeah, he goes like Glocta says the king's honor will not permit like a retreat. And Koska's like, honor, eh? What the hell is that anyway? Everyone thinks it's something different. You can't drink it, you can't fuck it. The more of it you have, the less good it does you. And if you've got none at all, you don't miss it. And it's like, yeah. That's exactly what a dishonorable person would say.
That is such a we don't like to reference it too much, but that is one of the most Game of Thrones lines if I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Honor bullshit.
Bullshit.
George, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. And that is it, basically, isn't it? It's hopeless. He's talking to Koska about it, and he knows that Koska's going to betray them. Like, he's just sitting there thinking, how long before this guy opens the gates.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, they basically just decide that they're gonna lay as many traps and make it as difficult for the Gurkish as possible, and that he's like, oh, whatever it is what it is. We're doomed. Just a matter of time.
And it's interesting to me that Glockter hasn't thought about this yet. That Yorway also warned him about ships, about the Gurkish fleet. And that, if the eaters are real, then they're definitely coming.
Mm-hmm.
So it is interesting that he never really kind of clicks that.
Well, I mean, there's not much he can do. There's not
Yeah.
much he can do. He just keeps looking out into the bay. He's like, oh boy. I really hope they don't come.
Like, I love when you threw that, Jeff. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Well, what can I say?
What would you rate this chapter, Jeffrey?
I would rate this chapter. Ooh, what would I rate this chapter? I'll give it a 7 and a knuckle. I like the interaction with Visbrook, who's just like, at first, he's just like reporting to Glockta about like, the status of the whole like the siege, and then Visbrook is like, hey man, what do you think about like us like leaving anytime soon? What do you say about that? Glockta's like, yeah, you thought you better earn them stripes, buddy. And then the whole Shiggle torture scene, which is like, ooh, it's tough, but we learn a lot. We learn more about Khalul because prior to this, all we hear is Baez shit talking him, but no real like description of him, what his end goal is, et cetera, et cetera. So we get that from Shikkel a bit, and then obviously anytime I see Casca, come on, Casca's a winner.
Yeah, and I reckon I'm gonna go for an 8 for the same reasons. Like, it's just it's a real mixed bag of a chapter, and it is very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going into straight like these chapters right here. All the chapters are great, but like these chapters right in here and these ones we're going through are like really good chapters. So I'm gonna give this a what, George?
I just said, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna give this chapter a 7 out of 9.
Okay, Pimp.
I think it's a good chapter. I think it's just solid. You guys kind of already covered everything, so
awesome. Thank you, Harrison. I said thank you, Harrison.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. You're welcome, sir. I mean, damn it.
That's a show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you all know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support really does mean a lot to us.
Join us next time as we cover Scars, Furious, and To the Last Man.
And make sure you follow us all on social media. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Reddit a lot, as you know. And we have a website, it's circleoftheworld.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to podcasts on. And please make sure to rate and review this podcast as it helps us spread our reach. Thank you all again for listening.
There is power in the past.